Uyo, uko, kuno, aho, pano. Mama wanna get it, mama wanna get it nice. I know food I miss, I know food I tell, I know kaya marigi. Kama kwetu tikom, kwetu tikom usasai. Kama kwe ano kaya mari.
Kamba kwe uyo anotara mari anogaya mari garai mamunzwa paninyaya pano zvamunoda kunzwa zvinotaurwa pano madiko kumunzwa mugovane.com. Kamba kwe vanogaya mari vanotaura mari vanosiya mari. Kamba kwe vanotaura feya kuti pamberi zvichafamba sei. Vanhu muteerere zvikubatsirei mukufamba kwenyu zvikubatsirei.
Right. 15 June 2022. And today I've got a very, very interesting discussion on what happened yesterday and the reaction of the CCC leaders, including Nelson Chamisa, who has gone into hiding. So Chamisa has totally disappeared and is failing to provide leadership to people in the CCC with regards to violence. And this is going to be defining for the elections in 2023. What we are seeing now is the beginning of what I was describing a few months ago, that violence is going to play a key part and a key role in Chamisa's re-election campaign for 2023. And I know that the guys in ZANU-PF, they understand what I'm saying, that Chamisa is going to be using violence going into the 2023 election. And the more violent the election is, the more it benefits Chamisa. So mark my word, and I'll keep repeating this as we go. The more violent the election becomes, the more likely Chamisa is to get into office. So the way that ZANU-PF is going to react to incidents of violence and the prevention of incidents of violence is going to determine if President Idi Mnangagwa is going to get re-elected or not. Because the strategy is simple. The strategy is to make the election so violent that at the end of the day, people, ordinary people in Zimbabwe, they will look at ZANU-PF and say, this party is not the party that we want to be in office. And that is what I call the Zambia playbook. By the time that Edgar Lungu got to the election, he was so unpopular with ordinary citizens because of the use of the security services. So much so that everybody had agreed in the country that we cannot have this person as our president. This is the Zambia playbook, and this is what you're going to see happening in Zimbabwe as we go. But before I go into my analysis, let's look at what happened yesterday. Yesterday, after the funeral of CCC activist Blessing Ali, the CCC bussed approximately 100 young people into Chitungwiza. So these young people were bussed in open lorries, and you will see here, these are the lorries that I'm talking about. And this is just a few of the people who were here. Now let's look at what these young people did after the funeral. Right. So I'm just showing you here where these young guys were burst into the home of a ZANU-PF chairperson. Now, I want to show you something very, very interesting. So I want to show you when they were traveling to this venue, when they were burst in. And the person who was responsible for this was Job Skull. So I want to show you when they were traveling. You will see that there is a police van here on the extreme left. These young guys are driving to the venue. They're driving to the ZANU-PF chairman's home. And I want to explain to you what is happening here. The police here have been overpowered. They've been outnumbered. They cannot react. You remember when Gokwe, the Gokwe incident, the police were outnumbered by CCC youngsters in the villages. So CCC buzzed a lot of young people to Gokwe. So much so that when the police realized that this crowd or the people they were fighting against were too many, they stood on the side. They could not do anything. This is the situation that occurred at Chitungwiza. The police were so few that they could not react to the large numbers of CCC youngsters who attacked the home of this chairman. And I want to show you the actual attack. So let's pack what I just said now. You have to understand that there's a very important development that is happening here. And let's look at the actual attack that took place. So I'm sharing here a screen from Taurai Kandishaya. Right, let's play the actual attack. And I'm sorry that the screen is so small, so let's try to make it bigger. Okay.
For those who are just hearing us, we are live from Nyatsime. We are live from Nyatsime.
Right, so you see that there was an open attack on the house of the chairman by the same youngsters who were in the trucks. So 100 people were attacking this one house, which belongs to the chairman of ZANU-PF. And the police were outnumbered. They could not react. That's why you see that there's no policemen there. Because if the police had come there with the kind of equipment that they had, one, they did not have any water cannons. So they probably had batons. Or they were armed with AK-47s, whatever the police in Zimbabwe use. Either they were going to have to use maximum force, which is to shoot people dead, or they would have had to be outnumbered and to be crushed by the youngsters. And these youngsters were singing, Dimi Mega Makatanga Kuchaga Hondo. You are the one who started the war, and now you need to come and get it. So I did not see who was commanding the youngsters, but this was an organized attack. The target was clear, and the objective was clear. They went there to hit this house. They went there to burn it, and the house was burned. So violence, as it stands right now, CCC is now 3-0. They've won. So ZANU-PF was outnumbered, so they did not have a plan. ZANU-PF did not have a plan on the ground. So in Gokwe, there are many ZANU-PF people in Gokwe. ZANU-PF was not there to react to the violence. In Chitungwiza, Nyatsime, there was no ZANU-PF on the ground. So the chairman's house was destroyed. No one was there from ZANU-PF to prevent this attack. If you remember in Marondera, there was a violent incident which Chamisa had to drive all the way to Marondera to stop an attack on the police when they were prevented from getting on the stadium. So ZANU-PF is a political party. They actually do not have a plan on how to prevent an attack on their members. So especially their senior leaders and their communities. So if CCC comes and does an attack, ZANU-PF does not have a plan on how to respond, because this is political party to political party. It's not government to political party. So if CCC is attacking your leader's home, and the police have failed to react. There should be someone in ZANU-PF who can then mobilize and prevent that attack. But this was not there in all the incidents that I've highlighted here. So ZANU-PF somehow, I do not know if the issue of the war veterans, because in the past they relied so much on war veterans. But currently, as ZANU-PF stands, if there was to be a head-to-head violent confrontation between ZANU-PF and CCC, ZANU-PF will probably lose it. They will have to go to another level to get assistance. And that level might involve using the security forces, which will still backfire. So violence, as I said, is a very powerful tool for Chamisa going into this election, because he's able to deploy nameless people without structures. There's no structure in CCC. So right now, if you want to attack a CCC leader, you know, people that you can count them on these 5 hands. You know Mahere, you know Chamisa, you know Job Scala, and then what? Who are the guys who are attacking? You don't know them. You cannot follow them to the houses at night. That is the power of violence for CCC. The way they've structured the organization is such that they can attack a place where ZANU-PF is. But ZANU-PF will not be able to respond in a coherent manner because they're attacking a fluid enemy. So CCC has somehow managed, and as I was saying to you, that there's a strategist behind CCC, behind Chamisa's campaign, behind his branding. There is someone who is strategizing for Chamisa, and it's working. The reason why it's also working is because from a propaganda perspective, Chamisa is able to claim that ZANU-PF is violent, but ZANU-PF is not able to claim that Chamisa is violent. Because you saw after yesterday's attack, someone's home was attacked in broad daylight for no reason, except that there's ZANU-PF. And still, the violence has not been condemned. No one is condemning the violence. There's no international attention on the violence. What it looks like is that CCC were just reacting to one of their members that was killed. Whereas it's actually not true. That is not the truth. This was a domestic incident where a woman was killed by a man, her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, and died. And still, it becomes a political problem for ZANU-PF because they do not have a way of reacting to these attacks in the way that they've been initiated. Chamisa are very, very smart and very strategic in employing violence as a tool to neutralize ZANU-PF. Because right now, if you're a ZANU-PF leader, you're actually afraid where you are. If you're in the community, you don't know if you're safe, if you're going to be attacked by the youngsters who you don't know. They're coming in a bus, they're coming in a lorry, you don't know where they come from. And the police cannot find them, ZANU-PF cannot find, ZRP cannot find them. ZANU-PF itself does not have structures to respond to this violence on the ground quickly. I'm sure when they're trying to bust someone from ZANU-PF to react to violence, then someone will be saying, who is going to pay for the bus? Because they're so structured. Who's going to pay for the bus? See, there is a structure in ZANU-PF, which is now making them lethargic and unable to react. Whereas CCC, because they're so small and so unstructured, they're able to employ violence, and then they deny it. You go to Gokwe, they will deny that they ever engage in violence. But you saw it in Gokwe. Police were trying to chase all these guys, and they failed to catch them. In Kwekwe itself, Gift Ostalos Siziba was less than 2 meters from Mbongeni Ngube when he was stabbed. And we showed this video. It was a shocking video where you do not know whether that violence that happened in Kwekwe, was it caused by CCC or not? Because obviously, why would Ostalos be standing 2 meters from the murder of Mbongeni? I was hoping to get that that video, because I think it's important for me to play this video to show you where Ostalos was standing exactly when Mbongeni Ngube was stabbed. He could literally stretch his hand and touch Muneni being stabbed. That is how close Ostalos was when Muneni was stabbed. In fact, I think I found the video. So what I'm gonna do is I wanna play this video so that we can see how CCC is successfully employing violence and facing no coherent reaction from ZANU-PF, because ZANU-PF is so big and structured, they won't be able to react to this. And if this happens in more than one place, so let's say there's 10 places and violence breaks out in those 10 places, and CCC deploys their infrastructure, their fluid infrastructure, what will happen is ZANU-PF will fail to react, the police will fail to react, and it will be chaos, which is exactly what is going to happen, and why I say that Chamisa is going to benefit a great deal from violence if it occurs before the 2023 election. And what you are seeing now is more demonstrations of this use and employment of violence by CCC. CCC now more violent than ZANU-PF. I'm not saying this in a way to smear CCC. I'm saying this in a way of, let's say from a strategic point of view, the violence infrastructure of CCC is more effective because it can get away with it. Whereas if ZANU-PF does any one thing which is violent, they can't get away with it. So now let's, unfortunately my video is not playing here. I don't know what's going on. I guess it will be for another day. My network has become extremely slow since I came from Zimbabwe and I've been struggling with it. Let's look at other areas here. So what can ZANU-PF do? And in fact, I want to deal with that. What can ZANU-PF do? How can ZANU-PF deal with Mahere saying that ZANU-PF is violent when it's CCC which is violent? How can ZANU-PF deal with Hopo Chingono tweeting the house of another person which was reportedly beaten by or destroyed by ZANU-PF, and not showing the actual violence that was happening? And he's got international audience. ZANU-PF, obviously, as I said, they have to set up the infrastructure to defend their party. There's no one who is allowed to just beat someone up and that person then folds their hands and stands there. But if ZANU-PF initiates violence, they will lose the 2023 elections because there will be intervention, as I said. Chamisa is going to get intervention because he's got propaganda on his side. And ZANU-PF can never, ever get that propaganda on their side. So there has to be a defensive posture so that if someone sees themselves thinking of even imagining themselves attacking a ZANU-PF person, they should know that that is something that you never do. At the moment, it's very easy. You can just go there and destroy the house of a ZANU-PF guy and nothing will happen. So there should be that infrastructure to say, you can try here your violence, but it won't work. Then obviously there's the issue of documentation. It's important for ZANU-PF to be able to document their violence. So it's very important. The video that we have now of CCC youngsters destroying that house, being buzzed in, it's very, very important. So that intelligent capacity needs to arise in ZANU-PF. You need to be able to document and store video of the attacks, because it's going to be important going into the future to document, to say, when people say ZANU-PF is violent, you actually show them that no, ZANU-PF is not the violent party, because I think ZANU-PF under President Mnangagwa is not violent. In fact, ZANU-PF under President Mnangagwa is very, very tolerant. And if they continue being tolerant, they will win the election. But if they become violent, they're going to lose the election, because intervention is just around the corner. The playbook for Zambia is going to play out again in Zimbabwe. And then there's the issue of how do you deal with the CCC leaders behind the violence? And this one, I think I want to skip the solution, but obviously reading from strategy books, war strategy books, you know that the best way to deal with a big organization, I've said this before. So if you are dealing with a big organization, you look for the leaders of that organization, and then you meet them in their private spaces. That is what happens when you are dealing with a big organization like ZANU-PF, because then they will feel like they're being attacked from all sides. So that's what I said in the past. If the leaders of a big party like ZANU-PF feel like they're being attacked from all sides, then that they stop being ineffective. They now start thinking about their own security. This is what is happening to ZANU-PF. CCC guys are going after the leaders of ZANU-PF in their private spaces and getting them so unsettled. So I'm sure the opposite is true. If ZANU-PF guys will to obviously go after CCC people in the private spaces, that is a solution. And I just want to say, I'm not suggesting anything here. I'm just saying that is basically we're getting to a point of war now, because you can't obviously attack a ruling party's chairman and then just walk away. And I've seen the reactions from people. People don't understand. Violence is a zero-sum game. You won't win, both sides. If CCC members think that they can be violent in this manner and win, then they've got it wrong. Strategically, they've got it wrong. In fact, dialogue is better. Dialogue and agreeing among each other is better, because normally violence hits the lower people. But when violence eventually hits the higher people in a political party, then it becomes a problem. But I know that ZANU-PF won't be able to deploy that because of the propaganda. So let's see how they come up with a strategy to deal with a party that has got international support, that is able to deploy propaganda, and that is able to become violent and not be accountable for it. Very, very interesting. And I want us to watch this space, because obviously CCC has decided that they can't win this election without taking the fight to ZANU-PF. And they are taking the fight to ZANU-PF. CCC is deploying violence in a way that is going to be exciting to young people who are impressionable. A young person, right now, where they're sitting in the village, when they see you throwing stones at that house and burning it and singing songs and playing drums and the police doing nothing and ZANU-PF doing nothing, they're energized. They're ready to go to the next target. And this picture is very, very powerful. This is a powerful picture here. Young CCC guys, they're doing what is called a show of force. A show of force such that if you are a ZANU-PF person, you're actually afraid where you are. If you see this thing here, and you're in Chitungwiza, it's you who's afraid. It's not the CCC guys. The strategy that they're deploying here is very, very effective. And Chamisa, you will not see him. Anyway, you will not see him, you will not hear from him. He is an invisible commander at the back, while ZANU-PF has got no plan for responding to this violence. Because if they respond in an unstrategic manner, they will still lose from a propaganda perspective. I think I've dealt with what's happening here. This is a dangerous season. And then the public, obviously, they need to understand that violence cannot be encouraged. And CCC guys, they need to understand that violence is nice when it's happening to someone else. But the day you are the victim of violence, the day when it comes to your door, you're not going to like it. Violence is not good, whether it is from CCC or from ZANU-PF. That is why President Mnangagwa was not using violence. It's not good. It destroys the whole country. And the CCC needs to find its ideological center. At the moment, the CCC has no ideology. It has become a personality cult, personal cult. The only objective of the CCC is to get Chamisa into office. And that is not an ideology. That is a dangerous mix for decades and decades of decline in Zimbabwe. If you continue in this manner that Chamisa is doing, Zimbabwe is going to become a very, very big problem, which will need intervention in the past, in the near future, from other areas, other places, because it's not simple. This is not simple. This is very, very complicated, because it looks like it's not true. It looks like, how can you say CCC is violent? And that is the reason why it's working so well. Now I want to look at some comments, and I want to look at normal people here. Let's look at some people. I want to block a few people as I go. And the good thing is that you haven't seen Fadzai here. You haven't seen Ostalos. You haven't seen Chamisa addressing this. They will never do it. They will never address it, because it's an official program of the party to be violent, and then to say it's fine. And then when it's your turn to receive violence, you go very, very loud. So let's look at comments. I've got so many insults here. I'm trying to get through all the insults here. It's as if like the CCC guys also have a media team where they just go, like they've been attacking our websites and stuff. So now we've got almost 500 insults here. So I have to go through all the insults first before I can find a comment that makes sense. Okay, so everything here is an insult. Okay, let's go to Enos. Why was Mo Blessing killed? So simple. Mo Blessing Ali was killed by her ex-boyfriend at a place of drinking, a beer drinking place. It was not a political rally. It was not a ZANU-PF sponsored abduction. Someone was killed, and it was not because of ZANU-PF. So that is the official report by the police. I saw that the brother of Mo Blessing Ali was on SABC today, saying that this was ZANU-PF thugs. I disagree with this. And I think when Senator Kalavan Pugen was here, he mentioned that this mustn't be politicized. I agree. But remember, the issues we're dealing with here, they are very, very complex. The CCC is going to use anything as an excuse to paint ZANU-PF as violent. And then they'll become more violent than ZANU-PF. And ZANU-PF won't know how to react, as I said. So this is the main issue here. And then, right, more insults, more insults. Right, Enos again. Are you saying ZANU-PF supporters are mad? You were not there. You don't know what happened. I will just show you video of CCC youngsters beating up that old man's house after the funeral. And then I want to obviously conclude here. Mkoma Danisa is saying, Zambia playbook is not guaranteed in Zimbabwe. Right, I want to obviously talk to my ZANU-PF friends here. Zambia playbook is very, very powerful. It can happen in Zimbabwe because the president of Zimbabwe is not ruthless like the president of Zambia, who arrested Hakainde Hichilema and slammed him into jail for 90 days. Chamisa is freely walking about. The difference is that Chamisa's party is unstructured. The unstructure that you are seeing is a structure. This is what happened in Zambia. In Zambia, they were not allowed to go anywhere to campaign. So they put people underground, people who would campaign in the communities without going public. So they would campaign at night. They would carry out black ops, including there were a number of people who were killed in Zambia because the security forces there were very, very ruthless. So people would even target some of these security forces guys or the cadres in the night. Some of them died. So the Zambia playbook is possible in Zimbabwe because Chamisa's party has got no structure. So you cannot hit it. You cannot hit back. You can arrest Scala today, but you can't keep arresting Scala because one day violence is going to happen in a place where there's no Scala. What do you do then? So that is what you have to understand. Zambia playbook is very, very possible, because one day the police will be forced to use lethal force, or you'll be forced to, ZANU-PF guys will be forced to go and beat someone up and they die. And the moment ZANU-PF looks violent and dangerous, then you lose. You cannot win a violent election if you're a ruling party, especially if it's ZANU-PF. If there's violence, Chamisa wins automatically. Right, I think I'm done here. There's nothing new for me to say. And I really enjoy talking to you. We're going to be back here tomorrow. We want to look at the case, the strange case of Marvelous Nakamba's mother and Kodamahachi's family, and what is happening there. There is a big story that is happening, and Ezra Chisasbanda in the mix, and the wife, the ex-wife of Kodamahachi, she's called Marita. So very complicated story, but we'll keep it short tomorrow, and we'll deal with that. Why there's a smear campaign on Kodamahachi, whose football career has been destroyed here in South Africa because of the smear campaign. So that is it for today. ZANU-PF has a long homework, because this election where they're going into, they are meeting a new enemy that they've never met before, and with tools that they've never seen before. That is the situation now. CCC is like an animal with 10 heads, and you don't know which head to kill first. Because if you go after one head, the other head will come after you. This is what is happening, and it's just beginning. Because there are people behind CCC that you cannot imagine, strategists, some of them in ZANU-PF, that you will never know how to deal with. So that is it for today. I don't want to keep going, otherwise I'll scare everybody. Thank you very much, and good night.
But there are times when an old dog has to become new. And that's why we must listen to the citizens. And that's why the new outfit is a perfect and beautiful name. The Citizen Coalition for Change.
Uyo, uko, kuno, abo, bano. Mama wanna get it nice. I know food I miss, I know food I tell, I know kaya marigi. Kama kwetu tikomu usasai.
Kamba kwe uyo anotara mari anogaya mari garai mamunzwa pane nyaya pano zvamunoda kunzwa zvinotaurwa pano madiko kumunzwa mugovane.com. Kamba kwe vanogaya mari vanotaura mari vanosiya mari. Kamba kwe vanotaura feya kuti pamberi zvichafamba sei. Vanhu terere zvikubatsirei mukufamba kwenyu zvikubatsirei. Mirai ndikudze kuti chokwadi pano chizere. Kamba kwe vanogaya cash vanopa mafacts vanotaura straight vane evidence vane confidence plus intelligence
Entertainment, current affairs and news. Kamba kwe toti komu usasarire. Kamba kwe anugaya mari.